Picture this. A dramatic espionage case against two men accused of spying for China falls apart, leaving questions swirling about whether vital evidence was deliberately kept out of the courtroom. Could political ambitions to cozy up to Beijing have influenced the decision to drop the charges? Dive in as we unpack this unfolding political storm, where national security meets international diplomacy in a tale that's equal parts intrigue and controversy. In a recent statement, Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson reassured the public that Jonathan Powell, the Prime Minister's key national security advisor, played absolutely no part in shaping the core details or the evidence behind the collapsed case involving Christopher Cash and Christopher Barry, both of whom staunchly deny the spying allegations leveled against them. This assurance comes amid growing accusations from the Conservative Party that Powell, known for advocating stronger ties with China, might have obstructed justice by withholding critical information prosecutors claimed was essential for securing convictions. The charges against Cash, a former parliamentary researcher, and Barry were dismissed just last month, sparking sharp criticism from Conservative ministers and MPs who are demanding answers. Phillipson, speaking to the BBC, expressed deep disappointment that the trial couldn't move forward, emphasizing that the Crown Prosecution Service, CPS, the body responsible for deciding whether to proceed with prosecutions, is in the best position to clarify why the case didn't meet the necessary legal thresholds. Downing Street has repeatedly denied any ministerial involvement in the case's failure, but this week's uncommon statement from Stephen Parkinson, the Director of Public Prosecutions and head of the CPS, revealed a bombshell. The trial collapsed because the government failed to provide evidence explicitly framing China as a national security threat. This admission has fueled the opposition's fury, leading them to file an urgent question in Parliament for ministers to address MPs on Monday and explain the breakdown. But here's where it gets controversial. Conservatives allege that Powell, with his pro-China stance, personally blocked the CPS from accessing reams of data that would have demonstrated China's hostility to UK interests between 2021 and 2023. Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp, in an interview with the BBC, called for immediate clarity, insisting ministers must urgently explain why it chose not to disclose the reams of information it has, demonstrating China was a threat to national security in the 2021-2023 period. He went further, suggesting Powell's actions were deliberate and that the advisor should step down if proven true. It looks as if Jonathan Powell was behind this decision, and he should resign if he is, Philp declared, painting a picture of a government prioritizing diplomatic relations over prosecuting potential traitors. The Prime Minister, however, defended the administration's approach, attributing decisions to the policies of the previous Conservative government, which once labeled China an epoch-defining challenge. Speaking to reporters in India, the PM stressed that prosecutions must hinge on the circumstances at the time of the alleged offenses. So all the focus needs to be on the policy of the Tory government in place then, he argued, suggesting that hindsight or updated policies shouldn't retroactively influence past cases. Yet, this raises a fascinating point. In the murky world of international espionage, should evidence of a country's threat level be frozen in time? Or can evolving geopolitical realities play a role? And this is the part most people miss. Several former Conservative ministers and advisors chatting with the BBC revealed there was no formal official designation of countries as threats. But they point to a trove of evidence that could have tipped the scales. They describe a document packed with hundreds of instances of Chinese activities endangering the UK during the relevant period, including the notorious hack on the Ministry of Defense, which insiders suspected Beijing orchestrated. I don't think there is a sane jury in the world that would look at that evidence and conclude China was not a threat. One source from the last government quipped, highlighting how such details might have swayed a jury toward conviction. Adding to the weight of evidence, public statements from figures like Ken McCallum, the former head of MI5, echoed this sentiment. In 2023, McCallum warned of a sustained campaign of Chinese espionage on a pretty epic scale, underscoring the breadth of the threat. This backdrop makes the withheld evidence feel even more pivotal. Imagine a prosecutor trying to prove spying without being able to argue that the information benefited a hostile power. For beginners in politics or law, think of it like a courtroom puzzle where crucial pieces are missing. Under the Official Secrets Act, which governs such cases, guilt requires proving that shared info aided an enemy. Without that threat designation, the puzzle falls apart. Not everyone is buying the government's line. The Liberal Democrats have blasted the administration's China strategy as a reckless gamble with national security, urging the rejection of a planning application for a new Chinese embassy in London's heart. Giving the green light to the super embassy being built in the heart of the City of London and above critical data connections would enable Chinese espionage on an industrial scale, warned Liberal Democrat Foreign Affairs spokesman Callum Miller. It's a stark contrast to the Conservatives' push for tougher stances, illustrating how party lines blur into a broader debate on balancing diplomacy with vigilance. Cash and Barry were initially charged in April 2024 under Conservative rule for allegedly gathering and sharing information that harmed the UK's safety and interests from December 2021 to February 2023. But as Parkinson explained last month, the case hit a wall. The evidence no longer met the evidential test, effectively pulling the plug on the prosecution. This saga isn't just about two men and a failed trial. It's a lightning rod for bigger questions about where loyalty to allies ends and national security begins. Did the government err on the side of caution to preserve economic ties with China, potentially letting spies slip through the cracks? Or was it a prudent adherence to legal boundaries, avoiding overreach that could strain international relations? And here's a thought-provoking twist. If evidence of threats evolves over time, should past cases be revisited, or does that open a Pandora's box of political interference? We invite you to share your take in the comments. Do you side with the opposition's call for transparency, or does the government's defense hold water? Could this be a sign of shifting priorities in a complex global landscape? Let's discuss.